Yes, Mr. Chair.
And would you be kind enough to detail to us how much you're receiving as consultant?
The record would speak for itself, Mr. Chairman. We will submit the record.
Okay. Can you just tell us, since there's a record, just tell us.
It's a sizable amount, Mr. Chairman.
Which is
It's a million.
how much
A million
per
per month.
month?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So if the documents are there, Mr. Sonza, can you... Mr. Sonza, since the documents are there, can you...
Silence is requested. The Honorable J.J. Suarez has the floor.
I think you referred to some documents that you were looking at, Mr. Sonza. Can you please furnish the...
Yes, we will.
Yes, okay, because we just wanted to determine whether your consultancy and how long you have been a consultant. Kasi we've been having these hearings for the past 3 weeks at ngayon lang po kayo lumitaw kaya medyo nakakagulat po.
Mr. Chairman, I'm questioning for in relation to this house arrest filed by Congresswoman Nograles would have supposedly revolved around Mr. Celis and Ms. Badoy. But understandably, you're not here given the other matters that they have to
Yes.
attend to. So, Mr. Chair, in that case, I guess we have to make do if we may ask is Attorney Tolentino still serving as counsel for them today?
Yes, Mr. Chair, together with Attorney Rolex Aquino.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the lead convener, si Attorney Domingo of MAN, if they could quickly just give us a rundown of the pending cases. I believe this was touched upon last time, but just to refresh our memories, maybe know, Mr. Chair, if there are pending cases of fake news, red tagging, libel against Mr. Celis and si Ms. Badoy.
Thank you, Congressman. I was not actually recognized by the ComSec when she mentioned the resource
Yes.
persons. So,
Yeah. Our apologies.
am I recognized right now?
Yes, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, the common denominator here of all these cases that we had filed, we are the movement against disinformation, we are representing certain complainants.
Yes, sir.
Would be the red tagging. No?
Opo.
While there is no judicial definition of what red tagging is,
Correct.
but other statutes would cover red tagging in its own. No?
Yes, Attorney Domingo.
By definition, red tagging is actually the malicious blacklisting of people or individuals or organizations that are against the present administration or the other party in the political arena. No? So that would be essentially the definition. So what we did was, Your Honor, we filed cases, for example, in the case of Kadapan, who was the co-eds of the University of the Philippines who were murdered by General Palparan. The SMNI was used as a vehicle for the interview of that General Palparan without even the authorization of the DOJ. That was already finally resolved, that the DOJ did not have any authority, did not give the authority to give that kind of interview on SMNI.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there are other certain cases, but what I'd like to highlight here is the case of Mrs. Badoy lambasting wholesale the Judge Malagar who issued that decision not proscribing the NPA-NDF as terrorist organization. This actually is rooted in the independence of the judiciary. If you red tag the judge who is adjudicating certain cases, then the independence of the Philippine judiciary is a co-equal branch of this honorable and august house. That would be the height of the impingement of the freedom of expression, even assuming that there is no red tagging as mentioned. But the court, the Supreme Court itself, the Honorable Supreme Court itself said, it's actually practically cited and told Ms. Badoy to stop doing it and red tagging Judge Malagar because that impinges on the independence of the judiciary. There are other cases, not very far from here. There's a case that SMNI again gave the vehicle for the red tagging of your colleague, Congressman Franz Castro, recently.
Mr. Chair, sorry to cut off si
Yes.
Domingo. May I ask the good research person what date was the issue on Judge Malagar and what date yung issue regarding our colleague, si Ms. Castro? Thank you, Congresswoman Castro. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's October 2022 in GR number 263384, Your Honor. And the court very sternly cautioned Ms. Badoy to stop doing it. Ms. Badoy even said that the judge was imbecile, that she belongs to the bowel of the earth, and all other invectives on SMNI. That's why the reason why we went motu proprio, the court, Supreme Court motu proprio issued that memorandum or that caution. At the same time, the movement against disinformation filed a petition for indirect contempt against Mrs. Badoy, which the Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court, took cognizance of and is now pending adjudication by the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So we know the date of the case itself, but may we know the date of the incident of the red tagging of the good judge? Was that in 2022 or 2021?
2022.
2022 also. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please do proceed.
And of course, the others are of course against Atom Pagaduan Araulio. He was red tagged repeatedly. We also filed cases against the red tagging of the journalist in Cagayan de Oro, Corrales. We also, during the height of the COVID-19, SMNI was used as a red tagging vehicle against the frontliners. The medical doctors that were assisting the COVID victims, and the other nurses and other field workers of the Department of Health. They were all red tagged. So there is a very perceptible trend that SFNI is being used as a vehicle for red tagging, and what had been termed by the Honorable Congressman Kimbo as a systematic vilification of certain people that are against what they are trying to advocate on SMNI. So in other words, what I'm trying to say, Your Honor, Congressman Gutierrez, is that we are simply documenting and putting on record these various cases to highlight the fact that the Honorable House Committee on Franchise should take into this matter.
Thank you very
Pursuant
much.
to Section 21 of Rule 6 of the Constitution on this investigation power of the House Committee.
Thank you, Attorney Domingo. A media law professor.
Mr. Chair, if Congressman Gutierrez would allow.
Gladly, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, the Honorable Toby.
Yes, because this case was yung sa Supreme Court po. Ano pong petsa po nun?
October po yan, Congressman.
Ano po?
October po.
2020.
2022. Right.
Mr. Chair, last week sabi po nila meron silang ethics committee or ano ba yung sabi nila? Grievance committee. Supreme Court na po ang nagsalita, di ba po? Na
Yes.
sinabing hindi ayos yung ginawa.
Opo.
Ano po kaya ang naging resulta ng investigasyon ng grievance committee tungkol sa bagay niyo, Mr. Chair?
SMNI. SMNI. Ito po yung grievance committee na, yes.
If we may advance the information, Mr. Chairman. The committee decided to impose sanction against Mr. Celis.
Is there a document that will show that a sanction was made?
So I'm sorry.
But,
Kay Ms. Badoy pala yun sa atin.
so nagkamali po
I was
kayo.
referring to Mr. Celis.
So,
Kaya-
so mali ho. So, that is not a you're striking that, you're requesting that, you're withdrawing that statement.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Can you answer directly the question, the Honorable Toby Tiangco?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
That time, I remember that the court ordered show cause for Dr. Badoy, and we also called her on the committee, Dr. Marlon, me, and the rest of the board. And she had submitted to the court what is ano pong sagot niya dun sa kanyang show cause, at pinagsabihan din po siya na respetuhin po ang ating Supreme Court at nakinig naman po.
Pero anyway, alam po yung grievance committee na minimension ni the Honorable Tiangco is very questionable also. Because I raised that issue that when they told me the composition of the grievance is the producer, the executive producer, the associate producer. How can you have a grievance committee? Sila din naman na nagpalabas ng programang yun. Tapos sila how they cannot negate or they cannot go against their talents. Kasi alam naman namin yung negosyo ni Congressman Richard yan, no? Pag ikaw ang producer ng show, ikaw ang executive producer, tapos ikaw rin ang grievance committee, hindi ka pwede. Kasi anong pwede mo sabihin mali? Ikaw ang producer ng show. Di ba you can't contradict what you just did. Sila na nagkamali eh. Ang nagkakamali na yung production staff din eh. Di ba? So, paano nyo gagawin yung grievance show? Anyway, ibang usapin yan ha. Pero I just would like to take note and put it on record again that the grievance committee, I think, is not organized correctly. You can't have the executive producer of a show, the producer of the show, part of the grievance committee because they are part of the problem and they cannot be part of the solution. And I think anybody in television who has experience will agree with me on that. Yes, Honorable Toby Tiangco.
Yes, Congressman President.
Yes.
No, because this is a very serious allegation. Alam nyo, minsan, kahit hindi tayo nag-agree sa desisyon ng korte, we have to respect it. No?
Correct.
Hindi natin dapat patikusin. So, my question is, inimbestigahan ba sila ng network? Nung lumabas yung Supreme Court doon sa admonishment ng Supreme Court?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there an investigation or not,
Ma'am.
Mr. Chair?
Meron pa ba?
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Anong resulta?
Pinatawag po namin si Dr. Renan. She was reprimanded at pinagsabihan po siya na igalang po ang ating court.
Mr. Chair, can we have a copy right now of the reprimand?
We will submit within the day, Mr. Chair.
In the day, within 10 minutes, Mr. Chair.
Can you retrieve it from the office and send it to us? I-viber nyo lang po sa committee secretary.
Yes po.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Gutierrez. And thank you,
General Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Congressman Tiangco. Mr. Chair, so according to our resource person from MAD, we have quite a few high-profile incidents ng red tagging, fake news. Of course, this is under Ms. Badoy, but we also have the instance now that is being investigated doon kay Mr. Celis. I would like to also include as a high-profile incident of fake news. So, Mr. Chair, one more question that I have for the lead convener of MAD. Mr. Chair, do we have this kind of trend occurring in other media outlets, in other networks?
May we recognize your Honor?
Please reply. Before that, the chair would like to recognize the presence of our Senior Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Don Gonzales Jr. of the 3rd District of Pampanga and Honorable Representative of the 1st District of Agusan del Norte, the Honorable Jose Aquino II. And of course, for the 1st District of Surigao del Norte, the Honorable Bingo Matugas. Welcome, sir, to the
Mr.
committee.
Chair.
Yes, please reply. Attorney.
My apologies for the interruption, but may this representation be granted authority to leave the committee hearing as I have a flight to catch, Your Honor.
Well, it appears if you don't have any substantial, your role here is just to deliver a letter
Yes, Your
to
Honor.
the committee chairman.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, you're excused.
Thank you very
thank you.
much, Your Honor.
Yes, now proceed. The Honorable, yes. Who is the question? Yes, the Honorable, Mr. Attorney Domingo.
I'm not yet honorable, Your Honor. Thank
Yes.
you. In answer to the Honorable Gutierrez, there is a very perceptible and perhaps very, very systematic use of S7I as a vehicle for red tagging and all this vilification campaign. Let's not go far from our house here right now. October 11, SMNI was used in an interview with the former president, threatening gravely your Congressman Franz Castro na papatayin siya. That's why we filed a grave threat case against the former president. Not only that, on November 16, the former president, in the same interview, in the same program, hosted by the SMNI, repeated the grave threat. Okay. Now came the subject matter of the privileged speech of the Honorable Suarez, about 1.8 trouble. These are all systematic trend of using that particular franchise for their own agenda. And I'm not implying anything that is political, but I'm implying about the fact that there are disinformation, misinformation, fake news, and other historical revisionism being peddled on that particular SMNI.
Thank you, Mr.
platform.
Chair. And I think yes, we are establishing this trend, no. Mr. Chair, I'd like to reiterate my question to the good attorney, if we may know, because I'm sure MAD as a social civic community organization is monitoring this information, not only with the SMNI. So, Mr. Chair, my question is, do we have a similar pattern of disinformation, of red tagging fake news in other outlets? Other media outlets, some of the big names, do we have the same kind of instance, or is this seemingly endemic to the SMNI?
Well, in fairness to the SMNI, there are some traditional media outlets that have been guilty of red tagging. And I cannot, for the moment, give you all the occasions that have been red tagging incidents, no? But nonetheless, what is very prominent in the context of our relevant and material to our discussion right now, what is very prominently mentioned and very, very high profile would be the SFNI.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yung high profile pala na cases nito would be, seems to be, based on our research person, endemic to the SMNI. Not exclusively, but the pattern seems to be established here. So, we bring this up because, of course, we were talking about the Section 4 violations when it comes to deliberately false information circulating. Of course, these are not, open shut cases, but this tends to give us a pattern that we can look into. And this tends to establish it. So, Mr. Chair, Ms. Badoy is not here, but I would like to ask the attorney, perhaps, if he would be familiar with how long Ms. Badoy was with the USEC of PCO.
I have no personal knowledge with respect to her engagement with the former administration, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Chair. So, but since when was she engaged for SMNI?
2021, Mr. Chair.
2021. Any specific month po ba?
July of 2021, Mr. Chair.
So, July of 2021. I would assume this is still a year before the election, no? So this was still in the previous administration.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, maybe know, perhaps from the President, that they knowingly hired or perhaps engaged with Ms. Badoy as a sitting official? Or did she retire prior to the conclusion of the administration?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yusek Lorraine Badoy has program in SMNI, Habang Kasamang Bayan. During the time that she was still the USEC in the PCO spokesperson and a member of the NTF-ERPA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there was an overlap po, no?
Yes, po.
We see a clear transition from Ms. Badoy being a USEC on a program of SMNI and now still being on SMNI but as a private person. Mr. Chair, does SMNI have any means of determining which statements she's making as an official and which statements she's making as a private person? Because I understand, Mr. Chair, the substance usually of the of her program would tend to revolve around this sort of systemic kind of information as mentioned by the lead convener of MAD. So, Mr. Chair, we'd like to know if where does her official function end and the private person begin?
Can I defer the question to her lawyer?
Mr. Chair, I'd prefer to find out. No, I'm asking about SMNI's practice. How do you determine the separate liability?
Actually, the broadcast has two kinds of broadcast. There's a live and there's a recorded. So we cannot, if there is live, of course we cannot stop her from talking.
Mr. Chair, but I believe that's actually a provision of your franchise, that it's a responsibility that you have to stop any
Well, I
broadcast.
mean, we cannot say what, we cannot tell her what to say, what not to say, because she's online.
But surely, Mr. Chair, you tell her to speak as a private person. Or are you admitting here today that you were giving this airtime in an official capacity to the government of the Republic of the Philippines?
No.
So private nga po yun.
Yes, po.
So, Mr. Chair, we have established now, because it was quite confusing during the last hearing, that she would cite government documents, especially if I recall, regarding Chairman Benny Abante. She cited that I have basis to say all of these things because we have in this intelligence cluster, this and that. But Mr. Chair, it's admitted now by SMNI that it is in her capacity as private person. So I think something that we should consider is that this information that is spreading by virtue of their failure to segregate when is she acting in official capacity and when is she acting in a private capacity. Because of that co-mixture, we tend to have this information citing certain sources which aren't supposed to be relevant to their private capacity. So these are some things we're seeing now, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, one more question. Unfortunately, I'm not so versed in the world of television, but can you explain to us yung difference po as Miss Badoy as talent and Miss Badoy as the co-producer? Mr. President of the SMNI.
I would like to defer the question to our consultant.
Yes. If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Wait sir, you're acting as what?
I'm acting as the consultant for broadcast operations now.
You are a consultant. So anything that you say here, you are authorizing. Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
klaro po tayo dyan ha. Mamaya sabihin nyo, may disclaimer na naman kayo dun sa consultant ha. Okay, na hindi yan official position nyo. Sir,
Mr. Chair?
kayo po. Yes.
Mr. Chair? Just very quickly, so just want to confirm, as a consultant,
Who are you referring to? There's
the one who volunteered to answer just now, si Mr.
Jay
Sancho
Sonza.
Mr. Sonza.
Hindi
Mr.
mo
Chair,
napapanood yan? Sa
that's not my time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
Apologies if I should have known.
Okay.
But Mr. Chair, maybe ask si Mr. Sonza, maybe confirm that Mr. Sonza, as consultant, has capacity to make management and executive decisions within the SMNI.
Yes. Question. Mr. President, do you have that? Do you substantiate that statement? Na may kapangyarihan po siya kasi ang opinion mo niya importante kung kasangayunan nyo.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Bibigyan namin importansya yan. O, sige po. Okay. Yes.
Thank
Yes
you, Mr.
daw.
Chair.
Yes. Mr. Sonza. Please reply.
Para lang po malinaw sa takbo ng industriya. Ang status ni Miss Badoy and Mr. Celis sa SMNI ay co-production. Yun ang pagkaka-relay sa akin. Ngayon,
Sandali na po. Pakiklaro ho tayo. Yung pagka-relay sa akin, kinasiguraduhin ho natin kasi hindi ho natin pwede. Mr. President, ito ba'y talagang co-production?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Co-production, okay. Mr. Sonza, co-production, okay.
so co-production, marami ho kasing klase ng co-production. Co-production ng gasto sa pagpuproduce ng show, co-production ng hatian sa benta, co-production na ang hawak lang ng network ay yung technical component plus the airtime at yung hawak ng co-producer ay yung content provision.
Okay.
From itong sa kaso nila Mr. Celis at ni Ms. Badoy, ang responsibilidad ng SMNI yung TOC, Technical Operations, at saka yung airtime.
Okay.
Pagkatapos, kung magkakabentahan, siguro magkakahatian. No? Pero wala namang benta sila, so walang hatiin. Ngayon, yung content, dahil sa interactive yung concept ng kanilang programa, tuloy-tuloy yung broadcast.
Opo.
However, kapag ka merong magkakamali sa broadcast, that is the time we will call their attention and if necessary, we impose the sanction.
Okay.
Okay. Now, doon po sa tanong kanina ni Congressman Toby Chanco, binago na po natin yung grievance committee. Gumawa na po tayo ng editorial board ngayon at saka ng ombudsman sa loob ng SMNI. So, halimbawa, meron pong observation, sila ang MAD. Tapos, magsasubmit sila ng complaint. Yan po ay aasikasuhin ng editorial board. Katulad po ng nangyari kay Mr. Celis ngayon na sana ipapaliwanag ko kanina, nung mangyari po yon, inimbestigahan. Kaya lang, naudlot yung investigasyon, gawa ng dito mismo, inamin niya na meron po siyang pagkakamali. That is why sanction have to be imposed. And we have now the official sanction which we can provide the committee with what the actions taken by SMNI insofar as Celis is concerned,
Which is,
which is suspension.
how long? Bigyan nyo na kami ng copy.
Opo,
Pwede.
ma'am.
Can we have a copy, Mr. J. Sonza?
Opo.
Mr. Sonza,
Opo.
hindi po ka, ilan taon na ba tumatakbo tong programa ni Eric at saka ni Lorraine?
Mga may 2 years na, no?
Okay, may tanong po ko.
Opo.
Kung yan ay co-production at ang oras, ilaw, ang airtime sa inyo,
Opo.
ang talent sila,
Ang content.
ang content sila,
Opo.
at silang angkor. Co-production eh.
Opo.
Co-production. Doon tayo ha.
Opo.
Kasi tama kayo, marami iba-iba co-production. Question. 2 years na tumatakbo yung programa. Walang kita. Paano po sila?
Kasi nga po ganito, yung konsepto nung...
Paano sila nakakapag-tiis ng 2 taon na wala silang benta pero araw-araw banat sila ng banat?
Yung banat po nila, hindi ko masasagot.
Okay. Hindi, nakakatagal sir. Pag sabi nagtatrabaho po sila, yun po ibig sabihin.
Ngayon, doon po sa ano...
Nagtatrabaho po sila.
Kung titingnan po ninyo yung konsepto ng pagtatayo ng SMNI, eh talagang para sa
Hindi,
bayan.
sagutin na po na, paano po na nagagawa yun? Yun ang tanong ko. Kasi it does not make sense.
Opo.
Co-prod. Co-prod pero sa kanila oras. Pag sabi co-prod, hati eh. Oras sa kanila, ilaw, lahat sa inyo, technical, sila talento at saka content. Ilang.
Opo.
Okay? Kasi doon nga kayo nagtatago doon sa waiver eh. Alam ko naman kung saan kayo doon pupunta. Pero sige, doon muna sa issue ng co-prod. Na pinapalabas yung co-prod to, ergo, hindi namin sagutin kung anong sasabihin nila. Kasi co-prod eh. Nagtatago kayo. Hindi nyo tinawag black timer, hindi nyo tinawag iba. Ang sinabi nyo co-prod. Okay. Benta, hati. 2 years, walang benta.
Sila po, wala po
Wala,
sila.
in short, wala siyang income.
Opo.
Hindi po kaya pinapaswendohan ng SMNI sila. Kaya nabubuhay sila mas walang revenue.
Sweldo, wala akong alam na sweldo.
Hindi.
Kung
Mr. Chair,
honorario,
Hindi. Can we, SMNI, can you please answer? Kung
Mr.
sweldo ba siya
Chair,
sa inyo, hindi?
Mr. Chair, point of clarification.
Yes. Yes, the Honorable, yes. Before that, the Honorable Gomez was wanted to be acknowledged. But before that, may sweldo ba o hindi? Attorney,
Talent fee, Mr. Chair.
meron.
Talent fee, not
Okay.
sweldo.
Yung 100,000.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Isa ko sila dyan.
Per our co-production agreement, and the copy of the co-production agreement is already with the committee, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the Honorable Gomez and the Honorable J.J. Suarez.
Mr. Chair, will it be possible that the President answer your questions?
Okay.
Kasi siya yung talaga na dapat nakaka-oversee ng lahat ng operations ng network. Hindi mo naman tinatapon sa consultant mo lang yun. Consultant, binibigyan ka na ng tip kung anong pwede mong gawin. But, your day-to-day operations, it should be the President who should answer you. Yeah, he's the responsible person of that network.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Gomez. The Honorable J.J. Suarez.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Actually, I do share the sentiments of Representative Gomez regarding the who should be the one to answer. With respect lang dito kay Mr. Sonza, sir, you mentioned earlier that you're serving as consultant for SMNI.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sir, when did you begin your consultancy with SMNI?
Just recently, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Just recently.
How long?
How long ago, sir?
Mr.
March
Sonza.
20. Yeah.
Kailan po?
To be exact, March 20.
March 20.
Opo.
March 20. Do you have any documents that would attest to
Yes.
your
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
can you please submit this?
We will submit it, Mr. Chairman.
Submit it off before the day ends.
We will.
Thank you
And as
very much.
consultant, Mr. Sonza, would you be kind enough to share? Are you receiving any monetary benefits from SMNI?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Are you?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And would you be kind enough to detail to us how much you're receiving as consultant?
The record would speak for itself, Mr. Chairman. We will submit the record.
Okay. Can you just tell us, since there's a record, just tell us.
It's a sizable amount, Mr. Chairman.
Which is,
This is $1 million.
how much?
$1 million
Per
month.
per month.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So if the documents are there, Mr. Sonza, can you... Mr. Sonza, since the documents are there, can you
Silence is requested. The Honorable J.J. Suarez has the floor.
I think you referred to some documents that you were looking at, Mr. Sonza. Can you please furnish the...
Yes, we will.
Yes, okay, because we just wanted to determine whether you're a consultancy and how long you have been a consultant. Kasi we've been having these hearings for the past 3 weeks at ngayon lang po kayo lumitaw kaya medyo nakakagulat po ang pagdalo niyo sa komitiba. But nevertheless, maraming salamat po sa mga ibinahagi ninyo.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you very much, Honorable J.J. Suarez.
Mr. Chair,
The Honorable Toby Jang.
again with the indulgence of the Chair. Kailan po nagsimula yung grievance committee tsaka yung internal ombudsman ng SMNI?
President, Mr. President, kayo na po sumagot. Lagi ko alam niyo naman po yan.
Oh, Mr. President, why are you consulting
The
someone
consultant.
else?
The President is consulting the consultant.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
kasi yung transition period po, ngayon po ginawa namin ang grievance
Okay. Anyway, Mr.
So, Mr.
President.
Chair, so ngayon, for the record, ngayon lang po sisimulan yung grievance committee tsaka yung internal ombudsman.
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Na-suspend si Eric kung ngayon na po binubuo yan. Hindi ba nakakapagtaka? Nagbubuo kayo ng wala pa kayong grupo, wala pa kayong formal structure, tapos wala kayong rules. Tapos, suspendin nyo na si Eric ng isang buwan, isang taon. Wala pa. Paano nyo ginawa yun?
Actually po, Mr. Chair, nasa manual po yung grievance committee po.
Oh, sandali. Pero, tinatanong namin, alam po ninyo, hindi tayo matatapos kung hindi tayo magdiretsuhan. Sabi nyo kanina, wala. Nagbubuo pa kayo in transition. Pero may mga nasususpindi na kayo. Paano po yan? Paano yung nagagawa yun? Eh, mas kaya sa manual yan. Kung wala namang buhay yung manual, papel ho yan. Pero you have to put life to that piece of paper. And you have not. And you've suspended it already, Kagiri. So where's due process then?
Mr. Chair, and
There will be baka magkaroon ng NLRC question pa. Yes,
nung po tinanong natin si Attorney Tolentino noon, ang sabi po niya,
Meron
wala silang grievance, meron sila ethics board. Di ba kaya nga napunta doon sa sino ang composition ng ethics board. Tapos kayo po sinasabi na nasa manual nila. Pero nung sagot po nila last week, wala po sila noon. So alin po ba talaga ang totoo doon? Kailan ba talaga nagsimula yung grievance committee? Tsaka kailan po talaga nagsimula yung kanilang internal ombudsman,
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
the veteran lawmaker is raising his hand
Thank you, Your Honor.
to save Attorney Rolex.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we are in the process. We are transitioning from the grievance committee to the ethics committee. In the case of Eric Celis, I understand that it's still the grievance committee. Now we have the members and the constitution of the grievance committee. And they met. They met to determine the case of Eric Celis.
Okay. So anyway, Attorney Rolex, medyo, anyway.
Mr. Chair, last na lang po.
The Honorable Toby Janko, parang hindi ko
lagpas-
maintindihan yun.
Hindi, lagpas 10 minutes na po. Yung kopya po nung reprimand kay Professor Badoy.
Yes. May we have the copy of the reprimand? 10 minutes has passed. You're supposed to viber. Ma'am, Board of Director. Di ba, meron po kayo dapat i-submit.
Yes po, for follow-up po.
Okay. Well, we will not, hindi natin tapos itong araw ito.
Mr. Chairman.
Pakibilis lang.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, the Honorable Joe Poy. Wait,
Mr. Chairman,
let's make it clear. The Honorable Ramon Gutierrez still has the floor. Are you done? With your
Mr. Chair,
question?
not yet, but I
You
could,
should give way to everybody, but are you done?
Pwede naman, Mr. Chair, my next line of questioning would be picking up from a previous question. So okay lang naman, Mr. Chair. I defer to the good...
Yes, because
vote.
we will have already to go for the vote of the resolution. So I'm just allowing all of this discussion for clarity, so that we will be clear as to how the members will vote in today's hearing for the committee report. Though this has been approved, we're just talking the committee report here. Yes, the Honorable
yes,
Joe Poy.
Mr. Chairman, can we request for a copy of the contract that was manifested earlier between, they said it was 2 years ago, di ba? 2 years ago pa yung si Badoy and Eric. Can we have a copy of their contract, which started 2 years ago?
Okay, can we have a copy of the employment contract or the co-production contract or whatever contract you have
2 years
with
ago.
for this program?
Yeah, because I remember Badoy was,
Okay.
Badoy was still with
The contract, Mr. Chair, is already
Yusek.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, meron na po sinabit dito.
No, iba yung andito because if we will use this, sinasabi dito, nag-start yung contract nila is July, ngayon lang, 2023, and it is good for 1 year.
So can we have the previous contract?
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Attorney Tolentino. Okay, salamat po.
And when can they submit that?
Can you please submit that already by tomorrow?
Okay,
Because
Mr.
we'll
Chair.
have
Tomorrow,
to-
Mr. Chair.
Okay? Can you?
Tomorrow, Mr. Chair, we will submit that to the...
Thank you very much. Okay, we will hold you to that. We're listing down lahat ng mga kailangan i-submit. Okay, now, wait. The Honorable, can we now proceed to the proponent? Wait. Yes, the Honorable Kim.
Just a short manifestation, Mr. Chair. The manual of operations had been repeatedly mentioned, but just for the record, so I'm looking at it now. Supposedly based on the table of contents, it's supposed to have 221 pages, but what they had submitted is only 38 pages. Indeed, there are ethical principles which they are supposed to follow, which includes the handling of sources. But there's nothing on suspension, there's nothing on penalties. So kung nasuspende si Mr. Celis, hindi natin alam kung ano ang ginamit na basehan or rules. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Please take note of that and bakit may inawak si Mr. Sonza mas makapal na dokumento niyo? Ato, every time hihingin kami, may nilalabas kayo ng bagong dokumento.
I was supposed to submit this actually.
Okay, can you please submit that now?
Yeah.
Comsec, okay, that will answer
This
the
is
question. Okay,
this
now,
is
yes.
the
See,
copy to
I think, let us understand, that's the, yes. So let us be clear, no? May tanong nga pala ako. Bakit ho kayo may hawak ng dokumento, hindi ho si Presidente? Sino inabuto sa inyo? Okay. Okay.
Katabi ko po yung corporate secretary. So,
Okay. The CorpSec is beside the consultant. Okay. If the CorpSec was beside the President, then it will have been the President to manifest.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, para moving target itong ginagawa natin.
Correct. That's why, ano po nyo, Kaya yung problema pag piecemeal eh. As hindi nyo natin i-allow. Lahat ng hihingi namin kailangan isubmit yung agad before the next hearing. Kung hindi, mahirap po na piecemeal ang submission nyo. We don't have time to review all these documents, especially voluminous as that. Yes, we now proceed. Can we now proceed? Are you done already? Can we now move to the last question? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Gutierrez has his final question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as I was establishing earlier, with COPROD, which was mentioned, actually,
Yes.
I was moving towards that, properly elucidated by the good Chairman Tambunting. Questionable po yung kanilang 2 years na wala palang kita, it is still continuing. So it begs a question like, why do we have this program? What is the strategic goal that is in mind? Is it to perpetuate this kind of content? Yung tanong po namin, Mr. Chair, because initially we think that this kind of program should be for profit, and as their franchise is for profit. But Mr. Chair, so with that, I'd like to ask if the COMSEC could briefly flash the resource indicated by Kong Dan Fernandez earlier, yung expenses nila. So Mr. Chair, based on the expenses in SM9, very clear, walang kita yon. And they said that with the COPROD, they are sponsoring the expenses of that program. And talent fee po yung binibigay kay Ms. Badoy. Bakit po blanco yung talent fee natin dito? For 2022, which was at the time already. Yeah. And aside from this, so Mr. Chair, 2 questions po, no? Kung may talent fees po talaga si Ms. Badoy and si Mr. Celis, bakit wala po dito sa financial statements nila? And now I would like to ask also, papasok ba ito sa legal and professional fees? 100,000 a month po yun, di ba? So 800,000 for the whole year of 2022.
No, but it's 100,000 each.
100,000 each pa. And then, where are we going to see now the 1 million per month ni our good consultant? I have questions about the veracity of the documents they've been submitting. We have questions about the financial statements that they've been submitting. We have questions about their franchise. Mr. Chair, we see now this pattern of violations, Section 4, Section 10, 11, 12. Parang wala na nagagawang tama. So Mr. Chair, I actually still have questions on the GIS. Fortunate for us, the CorpSec, Ms. Nepomuceno is here, but in the spirit of brevity, I will now concede. I will just question in the second round. So I will now turn the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Ramon Gutierrez. Now, for the proponent of the resolution, the Honorable Miguel Morales.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So before we vote
The-
to approve the
yes.
resolution,
She has the final, this is the final one
to
before the
approve
vote.
the committee report based on the resolution as amended that we adopted last hearing, no? Which is to simply naman urge the NPC to suspend the operations of SORA, so based on its violations of their franchise. May I just be allowed to ask some clarificatory questions?
Yes, please.
So this is to SMI.
Please take note, Attorney Tolentino. There are clarificatory questions to be asked by the Honorable Mix Morales.
So in our previous hearings, we already established that Suarez Soap is actually a monopoly. Kita naman po natin sa pie chart na nilabas po of the Kingdom of Jesus. And as well, with any of the lawyers, it's part of your due diligence to know the membership of the major stockholder of your corporation, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
May I know how many members the Kingdom of Jesus has today?
The kingdom, no? I cannot answer that, Mr. Chair. I am the lawyer of SMNI, not the executive pastor
You
of
just
the
mentioned
Kingdom of
earlier
Jesus.
it's part of your due diligence, di ba? Sinabi mo may due diligence as every lawyer to
I'll
know
try
the
to answer,
membership.
Mr. Chair, to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Chair. But to be honest, Mr. Chair, I have no personal knowledge to the number of members. But I know it's about more than millions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, I did my due diligence. So meron naman po kami kayong website. Pakita po na lang natin yung screenshot ng website.
Okay, may we have the screenshot?
So it says in the screenshot of the website where Pastor Kibulo is there, no? You have 7 million worldwide, no? And congregations in Asia, North America, South and Central America, Europe, Africa, and Australia. So, ang laki, 7 million followers worldwide, members worldwide. And sobrang laki niyan. On what occasions, Mr. Chair, do these members get together?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I am not a member of the church, so I have no personal knowledge. I am just a lawyer of SMNI, Mr. Chair. I am not the lawyer of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. But I admit, Mr. Chair, that Pastor Apollo Sikibolog is my friend, Mr. Chair.
Okay, since dinidiin naman, hindi niya sinasagot mo. Okay. So since dinidiin naman po yung corporation soul dahil gusto niya tayong turuan, no? In 2006, when you converted from a non-stock corporation to a corporation soul, how many members would you have back then? How many members did you have back then?
As a corporation soul, Mr. Chairman, from the word soul, there's only one person involved, Mr. Chair, holding the properties of the corporation as a trustee per section 108 of the
Mr. Chair, I'm
Corporation
asking
Code.
about the members.
No, we have to understand. This is one person representing
A religious sector.
a religious
Yes,
sector.
Mr. Chair.
Ilan yun?
That's why, Mr. Chair, I have no personal knowledge with respect to the numbers, but I can give estimate, Mr. Chair,
Which
more
is?
than millions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, more than
7
millions.
million, more or less, but it includes also the sympathizers, Mr. Chair, worldwide, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's in 2006, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So, let's just say, what's 2/3 of 7 million, Mr. Chair?
7 million, 2/3?
Yes.
That's around 4 million.
Around 4 million.
Yes.
And when you amended your AOI from a non-stock to a corporation soul, were you able to convene these 4 million members from all around the world?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to manifest that there was no amendment from stock to corporation soul, Mr. Chair. For record, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Can we show na lang po the GIS that you in your certificate of filing of amendment of articles of incorporation didn't you change from your non-stock to a corporation sole na paulit-ulit yung binibigyan ng di ba nilalabas corporation sole ngayon are you recanting what is the good lawyer recanting now that there's no corporation sole, there's no amendment? Parang nililito po tayo, Mr. Chair, so I just can we
Attorney, I think
please
that's a
clarify?
misdeclaration, your statement earlier with this document.
So based on my personal knowledge, Mr. Chair,
We're not asking. This is a document that you
These are
submitted.
documents already. I mean, alam po ninyo, pag sabi yung, tingnan nyo na yung dokumento para maging tugma.
Anyway, so kita naman po natin may dokumento na they submitted, no? So again, 2/3 of the membership, you have 7 million and an estimate is 4 million. And now you're saying you don't know how they convened or whatsoever. Walang pictures of this milestone to have 4 million. It's such a big, diba, event all over the world.
may I know the question, Mr. Chair?
The
Do you
question
have
is,
any proof
Do you have
that,
any proof that you've
you know, the
convened?
membership?
That is an estimate, Mr. Chair.
No.
Kaya
No, we're talking of any proof that you convened.
Yes. Because as stated here in your certificate of filing of amended articles of incorporation, which you submitted to the SEC and you submitted to Congress as part of your repertorial requirements, on November 8th, you got the vote of at least 2/3 of the members of the corporation, right?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
And this is to amend to make
I'm the
it a corporation. So
Attorney.
I already answered that, Mr. Chair, that I'm not the lawyer of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. I'm the lawyer of SMNI, Mr. Chair. I have no personal knowledge about the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, Mr. Chair.
But I have a question. Don't you think you should have some working knowledge about this, since you're representing SMNI, of which the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the sole corporation, is part of, or majority of? I mean, how can you detach yourself from that argument, di ba? Na dapat hindi ko kayo pwedeng magtago rin eh. Kasi with due diligence yan. As a lawyer, you come here, you're supposed to come here prepared and have the answers. And you can't waste the time of all the resource persons, and including the members of Congress.
Sorry for that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that's why, if you keep on saying that you are not, I mean, you should, boss, third hearing na po natin to. You should be prepared to answer these questions already. Tapos there's another lawyer that comes in just to deliver a letter. So I mean, I don't understand. You have to be able to answer these questions. The question of the Honorable Nograles is, do you have any photo to show that the executive of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the sole corporation, convened? Because as per the amended articles, you did convene. Attorney Rolex, baka kayo may sagot.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We have discussed this when questions would touch on the executive pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name.
Yes.
We only have the certificate of filing of amended articles for 2023 and the previous one, 20.
Mr. Chair, since they
20,
are
22.
Yes, you still have the floor. Go ahead.
Your Honor,
So are you able to answer the question?
we are engaged only by SMNI, Your Honor. And later on, during the
But-
second hearing, we agreed to be lawyers for Ms. Badoy and Mr. Celis, but not for the executive pastor, Your Honor. This is
Yes,
different
but you know,
entity.
these are already amendments to the incorporation, the corporation that controls the SMNI. Now, hindi po dapat alam niyo ang sagot ito?
Your Honor,
How
the late-
how can you say that you don't have working knowledge and come here and we talk about this? How can there be an intelligent discussion with the resource persons?
Mr.
And how
Chair.
can you defend SMNI?
Your Honor,
If you do not know a basic question as far as this particular sole corporation.
with due respect, Your Honor, we are called here to answer for one, the alleged 1.8 billion travel expenditures of the speaker. Number two, the red tagging allegedly made in a program in SMNI.
Well,
Mr.
very
Chair,
good, Attorney
Mr.
Rolex.
Chair.
But
I do not have
I
any knowledge on what happened in 2006 when the vote was taken, with due respect, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, please.
Attorney, ganito lang po yan. You're also
Yes, Your
called here to defend SMNI. And in SMNI, there is a sole corporation of this nature. That's why we're just asking you, you cannot escape from the fact that this has to be part of your job, to be able to justify their very existence. You cannot say that hindi po ako abogado niyan. Then, pwede nyo sabihin, lahat yan, di ako abogado except SMNI. Ang problema, marami hong tao at maraming korporasyon nagkocontrol ho din sa SMNI. So, kailangan, hindi po dapat, I mean, if there was a reversal, kayo po nakaupo rito at ako po dyan, at ako po yung abogado, hindi pa dapat, alam ko rin yan.
Definitely, the view there is better than the view here, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. At least we're clear, Attorney Rolex.
Mr.
But you
Chair.
know,
I once sat over there for 9 years.
I know, and I used to watch you. And I knew you will ask questions like this too. Okay? At di yung pinapalusot yung mga resource persons pag hindi tama yung sagot. The Honorable Nograles.
Mr. Chair, klaro ko lang
Thank
po,
you, Your Honor.
no, sanabi po kasi ni Attorney Suplico na they're being called here for, do these, yung mga red tagging,
Oo.
sa agenda A. Sa agenda B tayo, we're talking about the resolution here. To
Yes.
clarify lang po. And which you are still also the lawyers for SMNI on this resolution, which is simply to urge NTC to suspend because of violations of your franchise. Correct, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. So, iklaro po natin, let's not mislead right now what's happening. Hindi naman po ako yung nag-file nun. Pinag-uusapan natin ang resolution na pinayal ko to urge NTC to suspend if we find violations. Okay. In any case, since they did not do their due diligence as lawyers, there is section 114 of the revised corporation code. And nandito naman din yung SEC na I can ask them questions if you cannot answer the questions of a major stockholder.
SEC. So, are you addressing
hold on.
this now?
Um,
Attorney Tolentino.
I am...
Pwede bang tapusin po natin si Congressman Nograles? Hindi po kayo pwede pumasok.
Sanay po kasi siyang
Because you know, kanina nagsasalta, puro hindi nyo alam. Ngayon naman na bibigyan niya, ibabanda niyo sa iba, tatanungin niyo at papasok ulit kayo. Pwede bang tapusin muna ni Congressman Nograles? Congresswoman Nograles, yung line of questioning po.
Sorry for that, Mr.
Bago kayo pagbigyan, ha? So, yes, Honorable Nograles, para maging orderly yung proceeding at saka maintindihan natin yung issues. Honorable Nograles.
So, section 114 of the revised corporation code which embodies the rules for corporation soul, since gusto naman po nila tayong turuan tungkol sa corporation soul, explicitly requires that at least 2/3 of the membership will give its written consent or has voted to incorporate at a duly convened meeting of the body. SEC, tama po ba, Mr. Chair?
Yes. SEC, please answer the question.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
And even jurisprudence, Iglesia Evangelista versus Bishop Lazaro, GR number 184088, July 6, dated July 6, 2010, states, even an amendment as well requires 2/3 of its membership, the vote or the written consent of its membership that convenes for that sole purpose.
SEC.
Correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Dito po, makikita natin sa pag-file pa lang nila ng Certificate of Amendment of Articles, that's why I highlighted it. It says 2/3 of the members of the corporation, which is not membership and violative of Section 114. Is this correct, Mr. Chair, to SEC?
That appears to be the case, Mr. Chair.
Yes. But of course, alam naman po natin, mandatory, may mga submissions ng documents and you have to, SEC has to, if nagbigay sila ng documents, kailangan naman po, i-approve.
Yes.
Right? So, can we show na lang the next slide?
Next slide, please.
So, they have a trustee certificate which is notarized. Sworn. There's an oath there. Sabi naman po nila, contradictory to the first page of the submission, this is attached to the 2006 amendment. Meron naman silang 2/3 of the members in a special meeting called for the purpose and jointly held on November 8, 2006. So I've been looking through the website, wala naman po kasing pictures, walang anything. So if SMNI na lang po can furnish us a copy of a photo or proof of the notice, kasi 2006 wala pang, hindi pa pwede yung mga Zoom pag board meetings. So dapat, di ba, nakita yan na magkasama-sama sila on November 8 specifically, especially for that they called the meeting. I'm really hoping SMNI would be able to submit such documents or proof, because if not, hindi po ba to SEC, this is grounds for cancellation because
SEC.
of fraud?
Yes, Mr. Chair, any document that appears to be fraudulent or false or contains false statement submitted in support of filing of articles of incorporation or any amendment that constitutes fraud in the procurement and may be cancelled, Mr. Chair.
So mukhang kahit yung SEC, binibigyan nila ng iba-ibang requirements, the documents na contradictory to each other. The first statement on the first page of the GIS, and mas malala, if they cannot prove this, Mr. Chair, this is a criminal offense for perjury because this is under oath. The same as the document submitted to us na iba po ang sinabit sa atin sa Kongreso, na nalaman po natin today, and sa SEC, hindi po. Fraud po yun. So, to clarify lang po then with SEC, para malaman po natin within the purview of SEC anong definition ng fraud. Meron po kasi akong nabasang administrative case number 03-15-173 on Nature's Garden Park versus Enforcement and Investor Protection Department, where you define fraud within the purview of SEC to be fraud as actual or constructive. And in the same case, you mentioned that any material statement made by an incorporator in its articles of incorporation or amendment that turns out to be falsehood would be considered fraudulent. And again, yung fraudulent na to, regardless of the incorporator's intent or knowledge of such falsehood, correct? Mr. Chair.
Yes,
That's
SEC.
correct, Mr. Chair. Correct, Mr. Chair.
Essentially, pag mag-good faith na naman na argument, no, that they didn't know, they didn't comply, it's still going to fall as fraud within the definition of SEC. Correct?
SEC.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
And fraud in submission nga, even if they say good faith, is a ground to cancel such amendment or certificate of registration. Correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Proceed.
May I ask, and with this cancellation, no, may I ask lang, NTC naman po, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
For NTC, it is within the power of the NTC to issue certificate of public convenience for operation of communications of radio and television broadcasting system, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And corollary to this power and to your regulatory powers, does NTC also have the power to suspend such certificate, license, or permits?
Proceed.
If the violations are directly in violation of the CPC that the NTC issued, then the NTC may consider, Your Honor, but we take into account also the other jurisprudences in light of this. Thank you.
So, essentially, Mr. Chair, we just want to clarify from NTC, if we see violations, now that we're seeing several violations within especially the franchise of Suarez, and even if we dig deeper and see more violations, does NTC have the power to suspend while we're looking into violations? At magkakaroon po na lalabas po ang violations. Mr. Chair.
Your Honor, we will be evaluating very carefully the resolutions and whatever that this committee may come up with too, and we take into account also the existing mandate that we have and the corresponding jurisprudence.
Yes, simply that's why our resolution is to urge NTC, no? So, to enlighten lang everyone, I suppose, let's run through na lang po the violations. First, di ba, yung ground naman po ng pag-urge natin sa NTC dahil may violations rin sa franchise. Klaro naman po, kanina pa, that we have, next slide please, under franchise, which is RA 11422. Section 4 was violated, diba? Not to use the station or facilities for dissemination or of deliberately false information or willful misrepresentation to the detriment of the public interest. Okay, next slide. Last meeting, of course, we established this with this whole shift of the controlling interest, no? And again, this would hit another provision in their franchise, which is on the next slide, Section 10, which we have established that there is no prior approval on the transfer of the controlling interest. And then, that's the first sentence of Section 10. The next slide, please. There's also a violation on the requirement to report within 60 days from the transfer of the controlling interest. So, punta tayo sa mukhang ngayon, dahil sa nakita natin, no, that the latest GIS statement that they submitted to us is different. The one 2021 po ba? 2021 GIS submitted to us on the repertorial requirement is different from the one that they submitted to SEC. Mukhang ngayon may violation na rin po sa Section 12. Which, if I may direct this committee now to Section 12, on the repertorial requirements, on the third paragraph, actually, the second paragraph, the annual report shall include an update on the rollout, development, operation, or expansion of business, audited financial statements, latest general information sheet officially submitted to SEC. So bakit po iba ang sinubmit sa atin at iba ang official sinubmit po nila sa SEC? Certification of the NTC on the status of its permits and operations, and an update on the dispersal of ownership undertaking if applicable. And the next paragraph, the reportorial compliance certificate issued by Congress shall be required before an application for permit, certificate, or any equivalent thereof is accepted by the NTC. So ngayon, mukhang pumasok na meron na rin pong violation ng Section 12. Hindi pa po tayo tapos. Like we showed earlier, last hearing, next slide please. Lalabas ko po ulit na lang yung pie chart. That essentially, no, 53.46% is executive pastor, Phoebus Holdings is 46.22, Phoebus Holdings naman, about 97% is owned by executive pastor na, di ba, noong 2022 naman, establish natin na si pastor po ang talagang may control naman. So equivalently, may 98.37% na share talaga si executive pastor. So, at makikita po natin na ang cooperative na wala rin po doon sa kanilang franchise na ginawa nila to comply after 29 years of existence ay 0.19 lang po. Ang layo-layo ng 30% requirement nila to offer the public sa dispersal of ownership clause nila. And they only did this 2 years ago, after 29 years of existence, Mr. Chair. Sinabi po naman, Mr. Chair, nila that they are complying and may good faith na naman. Pero questionable na gusto pala nila comply. 2 years ago lang nila kinomply after 29 years of existence. Medyo, di ba, Mr. Chair, nakakapagduda. Diba? But even with that, we'll show the next slide. So, dahil hindi umabot sa 30%, meron violation on Section 11. Okay. More than even the franchise, nakikita natin tuloy-tuloy yung mga violations nila. Even with the Constitution, next slide please. Because we've established that there's monopoly. On Article 12, Section 19, the state shall regulate or prohibit monopolies when public interest so requires. No combinations in restraint of trade or unfair competition shall be allowed. Next slide. Hindi lang isa na violation ng the highest law of the land, which is the Constitution, pati rin po ang Section 11, Article 16, that Congress shall regulate or prohibit monopolies in commercial mass media. Mukhang tinatamaan na rin po na kailangan natin din tingnan to. Kaya nga, di ba, nakikita natin may mga violations. Not even with the Constitution. Let's also go to the KBP Broadcast Code, which they only withdrew their membership on December 4, 2023. So they cannot now wash their hands and say that all other violations that they did prior to that does not apply to them. So next slide. Article 1 of the KBP Broadcast Code on Section 3, Fairness and Objectivity. News report shall be fair, factual, and objective. Okay, next slide. Meron din on Section 4 on news sources. The only news that can be attributed to a source shall be aired. News must be clearly identified. You know, there are violations here na klaro naman, di ba, na Mr. Chair, correct, na umamin naman po na may mga violations at hindi nag-comply at hindi na-verify. Tama po, Mr. Chair. Not just Section 4, the next slide. Meron pa pong personal attacks na bawal po, na nalabas po naman nila Honorable Manuel and Honorable Castro kanina po. Next slide. Meron din Article 5 naman kung sinasabi na nagkakamali. When a mistake has been broadcast, it must be acknowledged and rectified as soon as possible. At ngayon lang sila nagsasabi ng sorry dahil nag-iimbestiga po tayo. Parang, bakit ganun po, di ba? Meron din, Article 13 ng KBP Broadcast Code. So, persons who regularly go on air shall be required to obtain accreditation. Like, some of the SMNI hosts were not KBP accredited. Correct, Mr. Chair. Ako nga po, hindi nga po ako KBP accredited. Sinasabi na dati po akong co-host, kaya nga po umalis. Kasi mukhang may mga violations tayong nakita. So I can attest to that veracity na some hosts really are not accredited. Okay. Then we have another article sa KBP Broadcast Code, Article 33, the Universal Ethical Standards. Ang dami po kahit sa KBP Broadcast Code. Hindi lang po yun. Mr. Chair, meron din po sa sarili nating house rules. Para maklaro lang kung bakit, di ba, na cite for contempt. Pakita po natin ang next slide.